Evaluating film has been a passion my whole life. Knowing what's made one player fit a system is what drove me to help assemble a championship roster. Now I want to let you know where you stand. We are searching for the top prospects and revealing what makes players' film so great. Are you brave enough for Athletic Audit? What's your score? Welcome back to Athletic Audit. I am so blessed to be here. I, of course, am your host, Moose Bingham, and we're going to go back to the state of Utah today. I've got my guy, JT Wistrcill. He's on Locked On Utes, but more than that, we've called games together for years. We go back, 5-6 years now?
Ooh, crazy to think, but I think it's 4 to 5, something like that. Wild Moose, you're right.
4 or 5 years calling high school games, watching some of the top prospects that are now turning into NFL prodigies. And we were just so excited to be with you guys today. I asked JT, I said, JT, what position do you want to break down? And he's like, there's only one position out there, and that position is quarterback. That's what makes this world go round. And I said, nay, there are kickers out there. And he said, not today. No. Here we go. So we're going to be breaking down quarterbacks. And we're going to start with one of our fan favorites, a guy that we both watched grow up right before our eyes. That is Kepa Niumetolu. That's right. We said his name right. We called his dad. We said, Dave, how do we say this name? We don't want to butcher it. We know we're of the Caucasian persuasion, but we're going to get after it. So, JT, why did you choose quarterbacks? Why do you love quarterback play so much?
First of all, I do believe it's the most important position on the field. It's not the only position on the field. Push back what you said. I'm a former offensive lineman, so I'm always going to give love to the offensive linemen, the big boys up front. But yeah, when you texted me about this earlier, what position to focus in on, I was looking over the recruiting class and being like, okay, who do I want to talk about? Who do I feel like is an underrated guy that deserves more love? And I knew it was Niumetolu was the guy right away that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Kepa. I watched him at Alta when he was a sophomore. He came in, and I'm like, this 26 quarterback reminds me a lot of Helaman Kasuga. He reminds me of the top quarterbacks in the realm, and he threw for 2,500 yards as a sophomore. I'm like, what's he going to do at the next level? And he took a little bit of a dip. He got to a new school, but I think this senior year, the comparison we have between him and Jaxson Dart is something that I think is going to be really interesting. They have a very similar body size. They're both running quarterbacks. They're not going to be passive in the pocket, and they'll lay the wood to you. You're going to sit there and you're like, man, are these linebackers at the quarterback position? No, these are pure athletes that do so much. And I think he's going to take that Jaxson Dart type step this next year. Jaxson Dart coming out his junior year had like a BYU offer in the spring, and that was about it. Then we watched him his senior year, and you were like, my goodness, what has happened to this kid? And I expect Kepa to do the same thing. So, JT, Kepa, starting out, he beat number 6 Corner Canyon, throwing some beautiful passes. That's Bear Tenney right there, the phenomenal tight end. And he did it in the air, but more than that, he did it on the ground. Do you see that run right there?
The first 2 plays, right? Show the dual threat ability right away.
Yeah, and that's what you're looking for. Okay, he's not going to run it. He sees his man. Bam. Thank you, ma'am. And it's just a perfect little post route right there. And then we go right back to it. The difference between his runs and passes, you don't see a difference right there. You're like, hey, what's going to happen? Is this RPO? What's going on? And I love to see it. I love that Kepa, his tempo in his film, it's just like bam, 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 bam.
1,000%. You can tell they put a lot on his plate too. Like, hey, we're going to treat you like a pro style quarterback. Here are the options. You can either hand it off here or you can make that throw downfield. RPO. Can you handle that? Absolutely can. That makes the right read right there. And it's one thing to make the right read. It's another thing to run like a grown man, just barreling through everyone on your way to the end zone. That's exactly what Kepa does on this play. I mean, the fact that he's making these other high school defenders who spend all this time in the weight room, all this time training, saying, I'm going to be able to make the play and tackle when it comes down to it, and they cannot tackle Kepa, that bodes so well for him. And this guy's a warrior. That's the first thing I loved about him when I turned on the tape, Moose, is I love to bet on guys like Kepa, and that's why I think he is going to really surprise some people his senior year.
Yeah, going into this, I was like, you know what? Kepa might be like D2, maybe FCS. He's a kid that I think with a good senior season, he could vault himself into the top quarterback in the state easy. He's a kid that's being overlooked right now, but there's tons of talent around him, and he is the cog that makes the machine go. And that's what you want from your quarterback.
1000%. I mean, look at, like we just talked about, the two dual threat plays right there. And we're going to look at some of these other plays where it's like, hey, there's nothing open right away. Can you scramble by the time, then make the accurate strike downfield? He does that. That play right there. There's only one place he can put that ball. Hey, where can your guy catch it? So it's also not going to get picked off. It's a fantastic throw. It requires a difficult catch, but it's a well-covered play. And he's able to beat that tight coverage with the pinpoint accuracy downfield.
Yeah, I love this play right here. Ike Staley was almost surprised when he got this pass. He's like, I did not expect that. And Kepa's a kid that when you started the season, he was more just a running quarterback. And then he really turned on that dual threat ability. His passing got better each and every week to where he took Corner Canyon in the championship game to the wire. And I just got more and more excited the more I watched Kepa, because he is a kid that's going to crescendo into a senior year, just like Jaxson Dart did.
1000%. He's just a guy you want to bet on too. And I mean, he's the next play you're going to show right here. Like, this is tremendous, right? Hey, I got to step up in the pocket, buy time. I'm not just going to tuck it and run it. There's still a play to be made downfield. It's not an easy pass either. He's not just getting it past the defender, but he also got the sideline, which is right there. There's only a certain spot that ball can be. And yet again, he delivers the multiple ways in which he makes plays. It's not like, oh, hey, everything was drawn up to a T perfectly as we did it with coach in the chalkboard, and that's how I succeed. No, when things break down, Kepa finds a way, like he did, like you mentioned, in the playoff run all season long. And the growth of development is what I love too. That's why I bet on this guy. He's a big-time player capable of making big-time plays.
And he's got great size, 6'3", 205. I heard he's put on some weight. He's got some more speed going into his senior year. But he's what I refer to as a quarterback. Jason Beck, one of my favorite offensive coordinators, who's a coordinator for University of Utah right now, he's like, what I look for is a quarterback, a Taysom Hill type player. And I think Kepa fills those shoes. He's a kid that I wouldn't be surprised if the University of Utah was coming after at the end of the day, because of this dual threat ability and his ability to keep his eyes down the field. That's a high football IQ play right there, being like, hey, I could run it right here, but let's not risk my body against these two defenders. Let's find the open man. And I love to see this play.
I do as well. And you mentioned it being at Utah. We're watching him make plays in Rice-Eccles Stadium. I would love it if this was not the last time he decided to do that too. And just once again, like, look right there, the change of direction right away. How many guys are going to be able to plant their foot in the ground, turn the corner like that, lowers the shoulder too, shows the fight. You already mentioned the size as well, just barrels over defenders, able to turn the corner. I love this guy's game, man. I really think he's got a chance to be special. I mean, how many quarterbacks at his size are able to turn the corner like that and get into the end zone?
Not many. And I'm pretty mad at these offensive linemen. Block somebody. Don't have four guys coming after.
1000%. They got
Gary Pay is not happy with that play. I'll tell you that right now.
Not at all. It's one of those things like, oh, hey, they probably were doubting too for a moment. They're like, he's probably going to get dropped. Oh, wait, he was still able to turn the corner. I love the little fake right there as well, Moose. I'm seeing that correctly, right? Doesn't he pass fake there at the end to try to get the guy? Like, that's just that's a veteran move. You see college guys do that all the time, where they'll fake the pass so you get the defender to jump in the air. The DBs are taught all the time, linebackers over, don't leave your feet. But when they got a ball to tip that ball away or knock it down, they will so often. So once again, just another example of a great play made by Kepa. It's the combination of the physical traits with the IQ that have me sold on him.
Absolutely. And I love how he just got better. So most of these games we're watching, it's not regular season. It's not against like a Kearns or a Westlake or whatever.
Like that.
Like, no, I'm no disrespect to any teams, but like, this is against Corner Canyon. This is against Skyridge. This is against the big dogs. And I love to see it where it's like, hey, this tape is against the dudes that are going D1 at the end of the day. And you love to watch this. Like Kepa, great read, looks for 1, 2, and you can tell he's got a huge football IQ right there. Understanding the information and understanding what needs to be done, but then he just barrels down and says, I will not be denied.
He does. We talked about earlier where he could have tucked in and run at one time, had the guy open downfield, decided to make the throw. On that last play you were watching, the running one into the end zone, he could have tried to cut it to the outside and said, okay, maybe I'll get in there. But he's like, you know what? I trust my offensive line. I got a gap right here. I'm going to follow my blocker. Am I going to take a little bit of a hit potentially? Sure. But just look at the way he follows his pullers. You see him accelerating ahead too, not shying away from the contact. Just another thing I love about Kepa. Like I said, could he have gotten it outside and touchdown potentially? Sure. But I love when my quarterback is willing to mix it up on the inside. And you see that right there. And especially, his offensive linemen are going to love it in the film room too. Like, hey, he trusted me. He trusted that I was going to make the block, and he got in the end zone for it too.
What I love about Kepa is he gets north and south. He says, let's get the yards we can get, and let's not throw a fit. Let's just make it to the next first down. He got the first down, and he's like, I want some more.
We saw that the very first run he had too against, I think I'm trying to remember what it was when Lone Peak was at home there, but he decides, hey, I'm taking it right up the middle. I'm not going to Le'Veon Bell kind of wait, zigzag behind the line of scrimmage. I'm taking off straight ahead. And that's another thing I love about him.
Phenomenal pass right here. Just only place where his receiver can get it. He's just thrown that nice touch ball that you can see. And you're like, woo, I love it.
The recognition right away. Oh, my guy's got beat. His head's not turned around. I can drop this in perfect. And speaking of perfect passes, Moose, I mean, come on. Two guys in the way, sideline right there as well. That is the definition of a dime.
Yeah, that is just a high touch pass. I love that he's getting that high release. I love his technique. I think as he went through the season, his technique got better. He's throwing to really tall receivers most of the time. His average receiver was about 6'4". He had one dude 6'7", one dude 6'6", one dude 6'5", and one dude 6'1". I mean, what a dream cast for a receiving core for a quarterback saying, I'm going to throw it up, you go get it.
1,000%. You can see the trust he has in his guys too. And how often are we watching this? And it's like, okay, boop, the ball goes right where it's supposed to be. Recognize that, hey, this man's open. I'm going to find it perfectly downfield too. And that's another example right there. He drops it right in the breadbasket. He finds where these guys get behind the defense too. Elite processing. I just continue to come away more and more impressed with this guy the more and more tape I watched on him. And you made a great point, Moose. We weren't trying to shade those other schools, but like the fact that, hey, some of your best stuff was against Corner Canyon, that trends really well. He beat them once in the regular season, as you discussed, and then able to topple them and then falls to them in the playoffs too. But still, just so many encouraging signs from Kepa.
Yeah, it's so hard to beat a team twice. It's almost impossible. But Kepa almost pulled it off against the number 15 team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, that Corner Canyon team, it's a juggernaut. We know every year how much they reload, but when you got a guy who can make plays like this, I mean, look at the touch once again, downfield, just drops in the long ball right there. Great recognition of, hey, my guy's going to get open downfield again. And that's this is another example of, hey, can he make it throws downfield, right? I don't think he has the greatest arm we've seen in the state. Like we're going to talk about Jaxson Dart here in a little bit, but I still think it's a very strong arm. And you see good touch on those downfield shots that end up traveling over 30 yards in the air. That's another absolute dime right there.
Yeah, let's watch that one more time. Just 40 yards on a rope.
Perfect. And once again, there's not a lot of margin for error in that pass. The sideline right there, the defender right next to him. It's a small gap, and he's able to thread it in there. And he can absolutely run over your face as well, too. So this is that dual threat ability. How can you not be a fan of him?
The one thing I wish he would do here is the safety's reading his eyes. The safety can see what's going on. And so I wish that he looked the safety off this way.
Yeah.
That's the only small little critique I have. But when you have an arm like that and you know you can get it there and you know your guys are going to win, I mean, I'm being really nitpicky.
But you're not wrong, though, in terms of that's a mistake at the next level that can get you if you do watch a guy down too long. And look, it's also nice at the high school level when you can do exactly what he just did in the play you saw, where he can run over 30 guys and he runs down the field, basically. So, yeah, that's where Kepa does have to get a little bit better. Hey, manipulating safeties, making and always trying to make it the right read to areas, continuing to grow at that consistency overall. But the flash is there. I mean, look at that spin move, Moose. How can you not be a fan anytime he's putting a guy in a blender like that?
Well, I love it, but you can tell his recognition trying to get the first down. He may not have gotten it. He should have had a better block. But his receivers, the one thing I'd like to say to the receivers is somebody get a block going. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's a classic wide receiver. What happened to no block, no rock? That's where he gets let down. I mean, look at that right there. That's a running back type of move, just shaking the defender right out of his cleats. How many quarterbacks in the state of Utah are doing that against? That's a Bingham defender, right, Moose?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many guys are doing that against Bingham DBs? Bingham's a program with a lot of respect, a lot of talent too. Like that is a college move right there.
For sure. So have you seen enough of Kepa for us to give him a rating yet?
I have. I think so. I'm a big fan of him, like I mentioned. I mean, I could watch Kepa play all day too, so I won't complain if you keep it rolling though.
No, and this is the scary thing. We're comparing Kepa's junior film to Jaxson Dart's senior film, to be honest with you. And so Kepa's going to take another jump this next year. So I want you to know this is Kepa's film if he was coming out as a junior. This kid has one more year of film, one more opportunity to take it to the state. And he's chomping at the bit. He's like, we were 1 or 2 plays away from going and winning a state title against Corner Canyon. That's it. Corner Canyon was on their heels. They took their best punch. But this is a kid that I have a lot of faith in and I think can make it to the next level. So let's grade him out before we go into Dart. So for me, let's go back and forth. We can argue these numbers. All of them are out of 10. Kepa this year, he had over 2,000 yards, 2,069 yards, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 435 yards rushing, and 10 touchdowns. His rushing numbers are phenomenal for a quarterback. I'd like to see 1,000 more yards from him at least for his next year. He's got to be one of those 3,000 yards passing, 1,000-yard rushing to get the attention that I think he deserves. And I think that's the one thing holding him back. 19 touchdowns is good. I want him around the 30 mark. And take that interceptions down by about 2. But if we can get him there, that's the type of jump that Jaxson Dart took his senior year. And that's when we're like, okay, this is a kid. For me, pocket presence. He moved around a little bit too much, which caused sacks at times. So I gave him a 7 out of 10. Are you okay with that?
I am. And we saw that. Like, hey, sometimes you're at the most athletic guy on the field. You're able to make plays and you're able to make things happen. But there were other opportunities to make plays. We just saw the best of Kepa, and that's where the ceiling is so impressive. But in order to be a great QB, especially at the collegiate level and beyond, you have to be able to make an excellent play whenever it's become there in an opportunity. And Kepa needs to shore up on that a little bit, including because he is the most athletic guy on the field. He can get out of most of those sacks, but it also puts his team in negative spots sometimes. So totally good with the 7 there.
Yeah, throwing motion, I put him at an 8. He has very good technique. 8 is a high grade for me. Arm strength, I put him at a 7. I see him about a 50-yard thrower. What do you think about that, JT?
1,000%. We didn't see, I even talked about it earlier, right? We're going to compare him to Jaxson Dart. I don't see Jaxson Dart arm strength right now. I think that's something they continue to improve on. Throws a decent deep ball, but it is a more of a 30 type of yard deep ball. It's not aired out from 60, which once like junior, that's still really good. But just compared to the best guys, I do agree his arm, that's something that you'd like to see improve and just might be something that he is a little bit limited in compared to the 5-star freak athlete at QB, even though he's a very impressive athlete still.
Yeah, footwork, I gave him a 7, which is solid for footwork. Same kind of thought process that we had earlier. Size, 6'3" is great size for a quarterback, honestly. And that's a 7. There are those guys that are 6'5" that you're like, that's the dream size. But unfortunately, the good Lord only gives us so much height. Speed, I got him at a 4.6. I'd like to see his miles per hour. I think he'd run about a 4.6. His reads, 1 or 2 reads, the interceptions were a little bit high. It's about a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And so I'm like, you got to do a little bit more reads. Grit, I loved his grit. That's something that you highlighted in his spin moves, trying to get the first downs. That's a thing that his grit is really great, and his maturity is coming along as well. Football IQ, you could tell some of those things. Like, what did you think of his football IQ?
I think it was there. You see right away the RPOs, the decision making. I think it's absolutely there. I like that an 8 is there. I will say the one thing we actually disagree on a little bit, I would bump size up to an 8. I like 6'3". I like 4.6 speed as well. I'd bump both those up a little bit to 8s personally, but I do think like the 1 to 2 read thing, absolutely agree with you there on that. But like I said, I like the size. I think the speed is only going to continue to improve a little bit as well as he works on those things. I think he's going to be incredibly hard to tackle at the next level. So I'd give him a little bit of a bump up there. And I also absolutely agree with the reads as well. We did see that's the other next step of this is like, okay, you made a few reads, but can you make the more advanced reads that you'll be asked to make at the collegiate level? I think he does need to improve there.
Gotcha. Leadership, I've got him at a 9. His leadership is unbelievable. When he went out during the state game, it kind of crumbled the whole team. And that was a tough one. And then release, he does a really good job getting the ball out. I think it could get out a little bit faster. So I gave him a 9 on that. And then I gave him a 9 on athletic ability for a final rating of a 0.700.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I love the athletic abilities where you kind of, I mentioned earlier some of the things I disagreed with on the speed and the size, like, but you had athletic ability at a 9. That's where at the end of the day, I come absolutely in agreement with you there. And you mentioned too, just like the leadership. He's a warrior. It stands. And this is a guy not only who, as you mentioned, he's a good leader for his team. He's a leader on the field. Like he makes plays too. It's the combination of leadership, what you want to. Hey, are you a guy who leads on the field by example? And can you also be the leader in the huddle and just in workouts and all the things of that nature? Kepa is absolutely that guy. And once again, I just want to reiterate, this is 1000% a dude I want to bet on. He has things to improve on for sure. He's ranked outside the top 30 right now in 24/7's rankings for high school football players in the state of Utah. I expect him to climb. When you have a guy who's willing to put in the work like this and not complacent, and that is not Kepa at all, I think he's going to have a chance to really improve and potentially even surprise some evaluators a lot by this time next year.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a bunch of teams kicking themselves and saying, why didn't we really evaluate and go after Kepa by the time the season's done? And we saw the same thing with Jaxson Dart. After the first game his senior year, he started getting USC, he started getting SEC schools, he started getting all of these offers, and you're like, looks like we saw something y'all didn't. And I think we're going to have the same thing with Kepa. So great rating with Kepa, but I want to see what he could look like his senior year from a Jaxson Dart point of view. So let's go into Jackson's film now. I wanted to break down Jaxson Dart, similar size, and he's a kid that's actually going to be an NFL draft pick. We went back and forth. I think he'll be a mid first round draft pick this next year, and a kid that's really going to dominate. He played in the weird COVID year, came over to Corner Canyon, played with Jackson Powers Johnson, did a lot of great things, but he did everything the step from his junior to senior year. I mean, his junior year, sophomore year, freshman year, I think he rushed for a total of 500 yards, and I made fun of him to his face. I was like, hey, if you ran for 1,000 yards, I'll give you X amount of money. I was like, there's no way you can with those cankles. And he's like, bet. He's probably the most competitive kid I've ever seen. He didn't arrange his film as well as Kepa, but I don't think it matters. So we're just going to have some rolling film going and see what's going on. First play, just kind of a run-of-the-mill 15-yard in, but then he starts to get special pretty quick here, and it's just 15 minutes of him just throwing touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say about Jaxson Dart, right? The Max Preps Gatorade Player of the Year, just all the awards, all the accolades. Look right there. He manipulates the pocket, steps up, fires the dart downfield, pun intended. I mean, this guy he's just a monster moose. I mean, anytime you're comparing anyone to him, that's where it's going to be tough. And even that first throw, it's a routine throw, but it's a throw over the middle of the field. The defense is giving you, take that throw. That's what Jaxson Dart did such a good job of. And, part of this, it kind of kickstarted this just incredible run that Corner Canyon went on with quarterbacks. All right, I should give it a little bit of credit to Zach Wilson too, but Dart was, when I moved out to Utah, Dart was the first one. And I still remember, he's probably the first player I vividly remember watching and covering in person and being like, oh my gosh, this kid's the truth.
Yeah. So what you see here, everyone started being like, hey, let's rush 3, let's drop 8, let's make Dart beat us. Because what happened is Corner Canyon, one of their first games, their running back Bell went down. And they're like, we don't have a running game anymore. Yes, they did. It just was spelled D-A-R-T instead of B-E-L-L. And so Jaxson Dart does a phenomenal job buying time, reading the defense, and finding the holes when you're doing a drop 8. It doesn't matter when you're going against this kid. You see his recognition right here. Watch this next play real quick, JT. Watch his head. 1, 2, 3. He's going to his third read. He's not just sitting there passively saying like, okay, I'm going to take my first read. 1, not there. 2, not there. 3 is there. And when he finds his man is wide open between 6 guys. There's just, I know that they're in zone. I know what's going on. This is some of the highest football IQ playing you're seeing because he knows they're daring him to throw. And good luck against that.
There's not many high school guys you're going to see that are going to be able to go that deep into their reads as well, to identify things pre-snap at the level that Jaxson Dart was able to. And oh yeah, also has a cannon of an arm, as you see on a play like that right there. And just Jaxson Dart's just a guy. Like, he's going to be the standard for quarterback play. Zach Wilson, of course, as well too. But man, Jaxson Dart, what he was able to do, I already mentioned, I'm never going to forget watching him play and just seeing like, oh yeah, that's how a 5-star, or I don't remember if he ended up being a 5-star, but obviously he's now an NFL draft guy. So like seeing a player that level in person is something I won't forget. And Dart is he's a total package. He really is.
So this is crazy. It's 50 plus yards in the air, and it's not like he's heaving it either. This is a nonchalant, like, yeah, okay, let's just put it up here and let our receiver get it situation.
That's the difference in arm strength we talked about with Kepa, where he would have to give it even more to get it there. But it is just so routine. Like, yeah, you can see the arm going over like that. He's putting some force into it, but it is by no means, hey, I'm giving it all I got. It is not that at all. Play like that too, Moose, look at right there, how calm he is in the pocket, despite how long it is. We talked about Kepa running into sacks, moving around. Dart's like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm holding on to it a couple seconds, but no one's around me as well. And that's the luxury playing with Corner Canyon's offensive line, but still got to make the right throw, the right play. And right there, throws it only where his guy can get it. If he threw it over right there, then obviously he'd probably run him out of the end zone. So that's, once again, just great ball placement by Dart.
Like, a back shoulder throw 40 yards down the field is insane.
Yes. Yeah, it's incredible. And it's one of the things that's what Jaxson Dart can do. Like, when you said, like, hey, we're going to watch a throw of a 40-yard quarterback downfield and it's going to be a back shoulder throw. And I'm like, gosh, there's only a handful of quarterbacks in the state that could ever make that throw. Jaxson Dart absolutely on that list.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that Corner Canyon had a 1st and 2nd round pick just sitting on their team.
I know.
During the COVID year.
It's just incredible. I mean, that just shows the riches of what Corner Canyon has. And how about right there? Like, going to get smashed in the face and then still delivers it accurately on time. It's a rare time, Corner Canyon's offensive line does let him down, but his guy wins downfield and he's able to deliver it. Can't really even step into it because he's about to get blasted, but still has more than enough arm strength to fit it in a tight window where you got the sideline, obviously, or just the end zone. You got the 2 DBs bearing right down on.
Yeah, just ridiculous film. And this is what we've been watching for years. I was laughing when he went to USC and everyone's like, oh, they already have this other guy. And I'm like, doesn't matter. And then he goes to Ole Miss. And they're like, they already have this other guy. I'm like, Dart is the most competitive kid in the world. And he doesn't care.
Yeah, he started right away at USC as a freshman. They had Slovis. They had Daniels. Did injuries allow him to emerge there? Yeah, but they were still able to win games with him because of what a competitor he is. And Moose, one thing that stands out right away, how many balls have we seen now over the middle of the field, right? Those are dangerous because if you let it sail, it ends up being picked off. Dart is able to deliver those accurately. Oh, and like we see right there, I mean, how many yards did he just carry that guy at the end of the play, Moose? He's carried him like it's a cub on his back, and it's no problem at all. Just incredible.
Yeah. Just a little cheat code. That's all he is. Like right there, when they're sitting there and the offense is finally and the defense is finally like, hey, we're going to rush and we're going to bring the house. They're bringing the house right here. Dart's sitting there. He's like, I'm out of time, but there's a running lane. Goodbye.
And who is that too? That's Skyridge. So once again, like one of the top defensive teams, you're going to play a surefire tackling team. Look at the zip on that ball right there. Like, that's got to come out like a missile on time or it's not going to work. And he's able to do it.
That's where he's actually throwing it in perfect placement. Over the DB, just solid.
Throwing over the middle of the field is so tough too because it requires the touch, the time, and the accuracy versus if you're just going to throw it, hey, straight ahead downfield, you can miss a little bit and your guy can still run under it, run into it. Like, those throws are a little easier. But these throws we're seeing Dart make, then you go, okay, this is what would eventually set him up for success at USC and Ole Miss. It's those next level throws, next level plays. Like, once again, another where he scrambles. And look at him being willing, lower the shoulder a little bit there to carry the defender with him a couple extra yards.
This poor safety is like, hey, here comes this first round draft pick. I'm going to take him my time to shine. No, it's not today, young man.
Not at all.
You were going to shine in the Excel sheets. That's where you're going to shine at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's just incredible, man. I mean, look at, once again, another high level throw downfield. The timing on the out route, on the deep out route is there as well. It's like, it's got to be there on the money, and boop, it absolutely is. And this is any circumstance you throw him in, right? Pressure in his face, tough throw to make. Oh, nothing's available. I got to tuck it and run. I can do that. Jaxson Dart could do it all. And it's just a reminder, even watching this right here, of like, oh yeah, he's still for my money, the best high school player. It's close, but I still think the high school player I've seen since I came out to Utah, and that was in 2019.
Yeah, his quarterback film is top 2 for me. I still love Britton Covey too, but this kid is unbelievable.
Yeah, that throw right there in the end zone with under pressure, having to back up too. Like, it's just that is such a tough throw. And Ms. Moose, we talked about this a little bit. Like, he makes it look so easy. He's about to get smashed. He can't really step into it. He's about to get leveled, and the ball is placed perfectly. You can't put it any better than that.
No. So have you seen enough, JT, or do we need to just keep going over this?
I think we know how great Jaxson Dart. I mean, look, that's another one right there. Just perfect on the sideline, defender turned around. I can watch Jaxson Dart play football all day. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm excited to see where he ends up at the NFL level, because I do think he's a guy, like, give him some time to develop and adapt to the game. There's a reason he was successful a lot at Ole Miss. I mean, look at the raw arm strength right there. Just incredible, Moose.
This is the funny thing. Let's go 10 minutes in just to see if there's like, oh, okay.
Oh my, that's ridiculous. Like, he could, you talked about him not structuring his plays right, by the way. Like, he could have led with that one right there. That's incredibly impressive. The sidearm on the move.
The off-platform throw is just some of the dumbest film I've ever seen. And here's the thing. Like I said with Jackson Powers Johnson recently, his teammate, I was like, you could go 10, 15 minutes in, and he's still doing the same things he was doing at 1-2 minutes.
Exactly. That's how you know he's just tremendous. And that's another throw right there. Boop, on the money, on time, accuracy perfect, footwork fantastic. We'll break it all down. It's such a tight window. It's an incredibly tight window. There is a very small list of players who could, most of these highlights he has. That's why you go 10 minutes in, you find it there. How many quarterbacks can fit balls into the window that Jaxson Dart can't? Right there. It's an incredibly tough throw to make downfield. And he just makes it. And he makes it look so easy. He makes it look like anyone could do it. And they can't, because that's what the greats do. The greats make it look easy. Jaxson Dart, one of the absolute greats to come through the state of Utah at the quarterback position.
Yeah, just phenomenal stuff. So let's give Jaxson a rating, just like we did with Kepa, real quick. So Jaxson, just review his numbers really quick. 4,691 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. That 10-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, ridiculous. Then almost 1,200 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. We're looking at basically 100 yards rushing a game and 400 yards passing a game, basically. And that's just ridiculous numbers. That's why you're Max Preps Player of the Year. So pocket presence, we're going to start with that. Quarterback knows when to step up and buy his time for blockers, but he keeps his eyes up. I gave him a 10. Throwing motion, 9. Arm strength, I gave him a 9. I have seen stronger arms, but his is just ridiculous. Footwork, I gave him a 9. Quick, deliberate footwork that helps him step into the throw. You just saw how quick his feet were. Size, we're going to disagree with this. 6'3", I've got him at a 7.
I'd bump it up a little bit, as I said, but I agree with everything you've talked about so far. I mean, we talked about the timing. We talked about the release. It just looks, when you say, hey, how should a quarterback look when they throw the ball? High school coaches all across the state were showing their quarterbacks Jaxson Dart film because of not just the throws he makes, and it's fun to watch, but because of how it looks when it comes out. He's a pro's pro.
Yep. Speed, I've got him at 4.6. Reads, because of his ability to check down to look 1, 2, 3, I've got him at a 10 on reads, which is huge. Grit, I've got him at a 10, mainly because of my personal interactions with him where I'm like,
you told the story.
Gosh, this freaking kid. Football IQ, once again, 10. Leadership, 10. He didn't lose a game his senior year. And the big reason Corner Canyon went was because of him. And because of him going there and doing that, it wasn't a one-trick pony with Zach Wilson. Devin Brown saw what Jaxson Dart did. Helaman Kasuga saw what Jaxson Dart did. Isaac Wilson stayed around because of what Jaxson Dart did. And there was just a consistency right there where you're like, wow.
That's what we were doing watching the film. We were just saying, wow, the entire time. Like, to your point, that's literally what we were doing.
Yeah. Release, I gave him a 9. And athletic ability, I gave him a 9. For a total score of a .925. And here's the thing. I think Kepa could have the same score, depending on what happens this next year. That's the beautiful thing about football. That's why I love finding these under-the-radar kids. And that's why I love doing this show.
It's so fun, man. And you look at a guy like a Kepa, it's like, hey, you see the things like this is where you have to improve on. Is it going to be tough? Absolutely. So then you go, hey, does he have the character? And we graded his leadership and character incredibly high. Jaxson Dart is just, I mean, he's just a monster. Every grade you gave him, I agree with. Like I said, slight disagree with all the hype, but outside of that, like he's a beast. And I do think Kepa is a guy, lone peak. You're going to have Batmu Latala protecting him as his left tackle now too, right? So you're going to get you're going to have that blindside protection. You lose Bear Tenney, but it's lone peak. Like they're going to have some legit athletes. You're going to have some legit options too. You're going to go against good players. Heck yeah, you're going to go against good players. It's the state of Utah high school football, American 4, Corner Canyon. You're going to go get some juggernauts. So you're going to have an opportunity to say, hey, can I step up and show out against these best teams? You did it a little bit last year too. But there's another level you can still get to. Is he going to end up being Jaxson Dart? I don't see that quite, but I do see a guy who's capable of getting some really good group of 5 stuff. And potentially depending on how it performs and how everything goes to form, we're still only here in March, Moose. We got a long time till the season rolls around, and we know he's a guy who's committed and bought into the process. Maybe do even better. So I'm really excited to see what Kepa can do. And any excuse to watch Jaxson Dart film is always a good time too.
Well, I freaking love it. JT, thank you so much for coming on. You guys, we're going to have a whole nother position, whole nother guest, and a whole lot of fun. This is Moose Bingham on Athletic Audit. Evaluating film has been a passion my whole life. Knowing what's made one player fit a system is what drove me to help assemble a championship roster. Now I want to let you know where you stand. We are searching for the top prospects and revealing what makes players' film so great. Are you brave enough for Athletic Audit? What's your score?